after this, I go to the hospital because my wife gonna have a child with me. So I became a father, like you said
Fantastic.
before. So I need to go.
I'll tell you something.
El bueno de Jon Favreau, tras esto, se levantó, rompiendo con el protocolo, y me regaló una moneda imperial exclusiva de edición Grogu. Me dijo que no es para mí, que es para mi hija. Así que, nada, ya la tenemos bien guardada y bien enmarcada.
Good morning, Mr. Favreau, and congratulations for the film. It was your intention to create a movie that anyone can enjoy, not just those who have seen every episode of the series.
Yes. I think it's important when you're coming to the big screen after such a long gap. It's been almost 7 years since Star Wars has been on the big screen. You have to acknowledge that there's a possibility that you're going to have a new audience. When we first started the TV show, there was also a similar opportunity saying, hey, maybe nobody's ever seen it before. They've never seen Star Wars on TV. Let's create new characters and let's start a new adventure. And then slowly make it clear that it connects with other things, but never have that understanding be an expectation that the audience knows that. You go to the movies, that's a communal experience. And there are audience members that were too young to go to the movies when Star Wars was there 7 years ago. When I was young is when I fell in love with Star Wars. That's why I love it still. And I think most people connect with it at a certain age. And that carries over. Very few people discover it as an adult. And we're just like music, you connect with when you were young, how you felt about something. And we thought about that with this film too. Like, I want to make it for fans who've been there since the beginning. But if somebody else has never seen Star Wars, I want you to be able to bring them and show them what you love. And like going to an amusement park. Oh, a roller coaster you've ridden over and over again. There's nothing more fun than bringing somebody else. Or going to Disneyland or something like that. And so we were very careful to make sure that, like George Lucas did with the first one, even though you're in the middle of a bigger story, you have to make it fun and exciting for people who don't understand the context at all. And now, because of the nature of streaming and the internet, if somebody gets curious about Star Wars, they can get in and they can watch everything. In a matter of weeks, they could watch everything that's ever been made, everything George made, everything that's been made since. So, yeah, we see this as an opportunity to introduce the next generation to Star Wars.
There's a moment in the film I really liked. The old always protect the young, and then the young protect the old.
Yes.
This is a line very meaningful to me.
Yes.
Are we witnessing Grogu's maturity?
Yes, yeah. I'm a dad, and I think my experience as a father has informed both the series and the film. And when Grogu went off with Luke Skywalker in the series, it was at the same time my first child was going off to school, to college. And being a parent it feels sometimes wonderful, sometimes heartbreaking. And The Mandalorian is very committed to being a parent. Even when he wasn't officially his parent, there was still that connection. And so this father-son relationship is, I think, why I find it such a personal story, even though these are characters that couldn't be more different than me or the world I live in. And now we're going to get to see Grogu because he's trained with Luke Skywalker, because he's a Mandalorian apprentice. When we see this new adventure, there's a new context, because now Dad's bringing him to work with him. And he has to feel confident that Grogu could hold his own. And so we get to explore that here in a way that we never gotten to do before.
What is it like directing a director like Scorsese? Is any pressure in any point?
First of all, it feels like a dream. It feels surreal. And my life, all of my life, feels a little bit strange. To be able to go from a kid who loved watching Star Wars as a 10-year-old to be making Star Wars now as I'm almost 60, that's a bit surreal. But specifically, Martin Scorsese has been an influence on me. You know, as much as I was formed as a kid around the work of Lucas, as I got older, Scorsese was probably the most influential filmmaker, long before I ever wanted to be a filmmaker. I just loved his movies. Got to work on Wolf of Wall Street for a short time with him, but then to reach out, Kathy Kennedy called him up when I said, do you think he'd want to do this voice for this CG character? She said, I'll make him a call. And he said, yeah, which I didn't expect necessarily. And he was hilarious, he was fun. And as a director, he knows what a director needs. And all he did was play, improvise. We tried new things, we laughed. And then we took that performance, laid out we had, visual reference from the video cameras when he was recording, and then we cut together a really good performance through all the improv, and then we gave that to the artists, and they built that. The CG artists and the animators built this wonderful performance. And even though it's not he's not the lead of the film, it's some of my best stuff. And he also works on a food truck. So we came up with Chef Roy Choi, who I worked with on Chef, to come up with the sandwich that he was building. And we actually cooked them and ate them on set, even though they were digital. We made physical versions. So I had maybe too much fun on those sequences. I put more energy into that than maybe others would have.
Why in the Star Wars universe the roles of villain and hero are so clearly defined?
Yes.
Empire versus Republic.
Yes.
But in the real world, it doesn't seem so easy to say, yes, this person is a clearly villain.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it not easy? All the people in the Star Wars, I'm with the guys, with the good guys. And in the real world, how we can choose it?
I think what's nice about Star Wars is, and what makes it timeless, is that archetypes are developed. And we understand through the eyes of how George Lucas first presented the Empire and the Rebels that it was echoing different repeating moments of history. And you could have looked at it, and I think by understanding history and the patterns of history, but also the patterns of humans, that, the stories haven't changed that much in thousands of years because humans are still humans. And I think there's patterns of government, and there's patterns of behavior and war and peace. And I think George Lucas was very smart to cast it in a fantasy world, even though it was sci-fi, which we think about as in the future. He says a long time ago, far, far away, right? That means that we're looking at this like it's almost like a myth from the past. And that allows George and us, hopefully, to show truths that repeat themselves, but set it in a context where we do know who to cheer for and know how to identify the good and the bad. And I think that, when you're telling a story set in the modern day, there's so much complexity about how everybody looks at it from different perspectives. What's nice with Star Wars was we all come together, we could identify who's good, who's bad, and we could cheer and feel a sense of hope and also a sense of sacrifice for doing what's right.
Thank you so much. After this, I go to the hospital because my wife gonna have a child with me. So I became a father, like you said before.
Fantastic.
So
Is it your first?
Yeah, my first. So I nervous, but I need to go.
I'll tell you something that somebody told me who was driving me when I was going back after I did an interview on a talk show and was going back, and my wife was expecting. He says, "You're going to feel things you never thought you'd experience," and congratulations.
Thank you.
This is such an amazing thing. And
Y vale, aquí se corta la entrevista, pero resulta que el bueno de Jon Favreau, tras esto, se levantó, rompiendo con el protocolo, y fue a su asistente, le pidió una cosa del bolso y me regaló una moneda imperial exclusiva de edición Grogu, que, estaba a buen recaudo. Me dijo que no es para mí, que es para mi hija. Así que, nada, ya la tenemos bien guardada y bien enmarcada. Espero que cuando sea mayor la disfrute tanto como yo.